Hey, what's up everybody, this is Muth24, and this is part 2 of my review of the Evangelion Unit 8 model kit. I'm going to start off here by doing a little size comparison and color comparison, as well as a design comparison between some of the other model kits. Now you'll notice that I have Unit 6 here, which is one of the 2.0 model kits. I think the last of the 2.0 model kits, actually, before they started the 3.0 designs. And it's built different than the Unit 8, as I mentioned in the first part. The movie kits from 1.0 and 2.0, while a little bit more advanced in certain respects and have a little bit more in the way of details here and there, are designed more or less the same as the old anime kits like Eva Unit 1 over here. They've got the same sort of torso design, the same arm design, the same leg design more or less, and because of that, the movie kits from 1.0 and 2.0 never felt that drastically different to me. They're still fun to build, but the 3.0 kits have a completely different design as a whole. The legs are the only thing that's really all that similar between the two, and maybe the shoulders a little bit as well. But as you can see, the old anime kit here is a little bit shorter. Its proportions are a little less consistent overall with the kit. I still like the old anime kits, but as far as the movie kits, it's one thing they really did step up with the 1.0 and 2.0 kits, is that the proportions were more consistent overall with the kit. Also, the colors on any of the new movie kits are a lot more bright and I think molded in a better plastic than the older kits were. The stickers on the older kits also, there were more of them that had to wrap around, like on the shoulders there, and they don't tend to stay as well for as long of a period. Whereas with the new kits, they either just mold everything in plastic, like the shoulder pieces here on Unit 6, or they give you smaller stickers that are going to stick to the surfaces that they need to, like the eye pieces and the little torso green stickers there on Unit 8. The other thing that's kind of interesting with the Unit 8 model kit is the fact that the wrists and the kneecaps and the feet are so different from the other kits. The shoulders a little bit too. I mean, the shoulders on Unit 8 are not that big. Unit 1s are pretty standard size and design for Eva units. Unit 6s are pretty tall and more curved, whereas Unit 8s are just really short and pointed in the front there. The kneecaps are really thick on this one compared to the other ones. I mean, most of the kits you just have these little simple triangles. These ones are really thick and beefed up and are kind of the same thickness as the legs below them. I mean, they're a little bit thinner, but they're not as drastically thin compared to these ones. And that's kind of the whole theme going on with the legs, actually. The thighs and the ankles on these things are a little bit bigger than on the older kits. The feet are perhaps the most drastic difference in terms of the design of these three kits, though, is the older kits you had these rounded sort of clown shoe looks, and that's fine because it helps the kit stand up, even though it's sort of this weird proportioned mecha thing. The Eva Unit 8 has these very pointed feet, and they're actually quite thin and not that long either, which is my biggest gripe with this kit. Because you have a thicker body and thicker legs and everything, it tends to have a little bit harder time getting its weight centered. It's not that it's that heavy of a kit, it's just that you've got a thicker build going all the way up, whereas with these other kits, I mean, the thickest part is at the shoulders, and that's pretty much it. The rest of the kit, it doesn't have to worry that much about balancing. Now, obviously because the Eva torsos are so skinny, and those joints tend to just, stick into little ball sockets there, they do have a tendency to kind of pop out of themselves and fall forward sometimes, but on the whole, I've never really had that much of an issue with my Eva model kits standing up. Eva Unit 8, though, I have had some issues with this one standing up, and I usually just keep it on a standard, flat pose like that, because if you move the legs a little too much, it's not going to want to stand up, and that's part of the reason is the fact that you have this design here with the ankles that limits their movement, and also the way that the hips are designed also limits the movement there. So as far as the rest of poseability on this kit goes, the head has sort of the same deal that the other Eva kits have, where you have sort of a neck joint separate from the head, and that can do the chicken bob thing back and forth. Can look up about that high, can go down only so much. but can rotate 360 no problem, simply because there's nothing hindering it around the neck there. The shoulders will wiggle back and forth a little bit. You can move them back and forth no problem, and get them to go back and forwards there. The arms will go forward about that far, and you can actually take the shoulder with it, and then they will go backwards only so far. They will go up about that high, which isn't bad, and then, you know, go down so they're basically flat against the body. I mean, you can't get them to go really any further than that. They will bend at the elbow just fine, though, and that's one of the benefits and drawbacks of this new arm design, is the fact that you can get it to go pretty flush with the rest of the arm there, almost 180, but that the elbow is exposed and has this weird gap of an opening there. They have this little cap piece that's supposed to make it look a little bit better, but on the whole, you've got just kind of some open mechanical parts there, which are really weird looking for an Eva. As for the hands, they will hopefully not pop out on you. They will go around no problem, and you can rotate them back and forth. You can really get them to go 180 if you want to, because this gauntlet thing doesn't hinder it that much. And the wrist bit can go back and forth to accommodate for the weapons a little bit there. As for the torso, you can get it to bend forward only so far before the exterior armor there starts popping off, and that's part of the whole combination with Unit 2 to make Unit 8 plus 2, is that this stuff's supposed to slide off really easy. So when you're moving the torso around, you can kind of see that it might come apart on you a little bit there, but it's easy enough to slide back in place. Bending it backwards, it only goes backwards so far. Turning it side to side, though, you can get the upper torso part at least to go 360, and then the bottom part can sort of wiggle around there. The legs can kick up about that high, can swing back about that far. The further back you go, though, the more it feels like it's going to pop out of the socket. You can also kind of get them to go up and down a little bit. If you want them up and over the waist there to give it more of a firm stance, you can do that. Or you can bring them down so that the legs are standing out and it just looks a little bit taller that way, and you have more room to move around. The only thing with that is that because of the way the feet are designed, as I mentioned before, it doesn't really make a difference as to which way you're holding the waist in there, because there's not enough motion either way. I mean, either you're going to be locked into place and the feet can't move that much, or you're going to have it where you can move it around, but then there's not much of a force like keeping it to hold it up that well anyways. So I don't know, it's one of the biggest gripes I have with this kit. But the legs can bend no problem, so if you want them in like a running pose or something, that will work just fine, and the knees will go along with that, as with all the other Eva kits. And then finally, the feet will only move about that much back and forth. Really don't move side to side hardly at all. I mean, you can rotate them a tiny little bit there, but again, this is down so low that it's not going to make much of a difference. The toes can go up about that far, can go down about that far before they start popping out of the socket there, and the heels can't really move at all. So if there's one big hit that I have against this kit, it's the poseability. Now, as you may have noticed, this whole time I've had two different hands on this kit, one being the open claw hand and one being the relaxed palm hand, both of which are pretty consistent throughout the new movie kits. You also have an open fist hand for holding something like the Lance of Longinus or another weapon from one of the other kits. You also have this trigger hand for the pistol, this trigger hand for the sniper rifle. There are actually two different trigger hands for those weapons, and this one is because of how far out the wrist reaches. It's meant to allow it to sort of wrap around a little bit more there. You also have this sort of open, relaxed half fist hand, which is meant to go underneath the different weapons. So it's like the Eva Unit 8 is holding it with both hands. And then, of course, you do get the umbilical cable, which has the bit of wire running through it, so you can twist it and put it in whatever sort of distinct pose you want, which is much better than the old hose material they used to use for the old kits, because that didn't really do anything but just, you know, drop right down. With how light the pistol is, there's really no problems with it holding it up in sort of a cool, relaxed James Bond type pose. The sniper rifle, meanwhile, is a little less smooth to attach to the kit. Part of that's because the trigger hand that is designed for the sniper rifle, the fact that the wrist joint is so long there means that it's actually more prone to popping out. This sort of relaxed open palm hand that's meant to hold the extra part of the sniper rifle, the fingers are attached in such a way that it's a really tight channel to try and stick any part of the rifle into, and because of that, you can't really put it up on the barrel because the handle just fall apart. It's too much to try and stick in there. So you can put it down on this little gray bit that extends out from the bottom of that canister on the bottom of the sniper rifle, and it looks all right. It's not too bad. But one of the biggest problems with this is, with a sniper rifle, you want it to be more intense when you're posing it, and you maybe want it to look like, you know, he's kind of strained to hold it up and fire back and do something really cool like that. And the simple fact of the matter is you really can't because of the way the legs are designed. I mean, this is a pose that I found worked for the kit to make it look a little bit more exciting, if you will, but also keep the kit standing up. And really, that's about the best you can do with it, standing at least. You might be able to pull some stuff off where it's relaxed and kind of leaning back and firing. That'd be okay. Or if you got it up on an action base, it wouldn't be as big of a deal. But as far as just standing, this is about the best it's going to get, unfortunately. So in the end, I think my thoughts on this kit are as follows. I think it's really a matter of how much you like the design of the Unit 8 that's going to be your biggest determining factor in whether you want to get this kit. Because honestly, if you're going to be getting it, you're going to be getting it more as a display piece than anything else. The time that it took to get just a simple pose like this was pretty ridiculous. And as you already notice, it's drooped down. When I first posed this thing, the rifle was up, but by the time I got the camera out, it just kind of dropped down because of the fact that that wrist joint over there is so ridiculously bad. It's surprising, actually, just how bad that is. This hand should help, but the problem is the fingers just pop out too easy, and that's a big problem with this kit. The posability is just not quite up to par with the other kits, and I guess it's sort of the sacrifice that they had to make with the design of this kit, because it's built more sturdy, that's for sure. You're not going to have anything in the torso popping off or any of that, but as far as just the design overall, it's not as fun. You can't do as much with it. If you want to try and connect them to the action base with the included attachment piece there, you might fare better with posability a little bit, but this connection is so loose and flimsy that I feel like it's just going to pop out if I leave them on there for more than a brief period of time. So if you're looking at getting this kit, I'd be very hesitant about it, simply because there's just so much going against this kit, to be honest. I don't feel like the price of 4,200 yen is justified with the complete lack of weapons that you get. I mean, you get two, but they're basically just solid slabs of gray plastic, and the fact that he can't hold on to them nearly as well as some other Eva kits is disappointing. The posability being so bad on this kit is a huge hit against it, and while I wouldn't mind taking a look at the Unit 2 myself some point in the future, I'm a little disappointed with the fact that the overall product of this Unit 8 and the 3.0 line of kits is not quite what I had hoped it would be. It had a lot of potential, but just the way that they kind of brought everything together wasn't real great. So that's pretty much it for this review, and with that, I will see you guys next time.